welcome everyone to another Cosplay Talks and All Things Nerdy. We're joined by some more amazing guests this week. So we have Nomity. We also have Uncanny Annie. I'm iPhoto UK. I'm a co-host Switch GN as always. So this one's going to be a little bit of a more serious episode. A lot of people have probably seen in the community over the last week with regards to some quite serious safety issues in general. And it's been quite a bit of a shock this week to a lot of us. And I know we did the podcast a few weeks ago on safety and etiquette at cons, but we just wanted to get a few people together from various sides of the community just to discuss a more general safety off the back of some of the issues that have been seen and heard about this week. And go from there, really. Let's try and keep everybody safe. Try and make people who may have been a victim to something not so nice feel okay to come out. And let's go from there. So, don't know, guys, where do we go from here? Been a tough week.
Yeah, it has, isn't it? I think where do you start when it's been a tough week? I think it's how we can really do is kind of talk about, again, how to stay safe, what sort of signs to look out for. Obviously, we're not going to do any naming or shaming or anything here.
No, that's not why we're here.
No, and it's not to cause blame or anything on that fact on the people that have been, obviously, what's been going on. But it's more about everybody else and how, what can you do in regards to, being safe or identifying certain bits and pieces, but also identifying the right factors and not just hearsay or blame, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, really lost my train of thought, really. It's just been, the last week has been a real roller coaster, I think, of views and emotions for everyone in the community. I don't know. What about you, Naomi? What are your thoughts this week?
The loudness of the one bad person. Do you know what I mean? It's so much louder and completely overweighs the amount of good people there are. It's like
absolutely
you get 99 really nice comments, but one is really, really horrible. And that's the one that you focus on because it's the loudest. It feels like the bad news has just been so in your face.
And that's a really good way of looking at it, actually. And I think, also, I think the last 12 months in general with safety things have felt pretty rough. Certainly, I've been in the con community since sort of 2017. You always get the odd little thing coming out. The last 12 months, there seems to have been quite a few issues. But this one particular one in particular really felt like it rocked and shaken the community quite hard. I think obviously the amount of people involved in this one was huge. And also for me, it was more the depth of betrayal of trust and power. I think, particular as a photographer in the community, I always feel that it's tough to keep your name clean as such. That's going to sound quite strange, but
I understand.
It's easy to not be a creep, but it's not easy to make sure that you are squeaky clean with everyone 100% of the time. And you do literally doesn't matter how long you've known somebody, when you're shooting with them, when you're interacting with them, it's we're all having fun, but at the same time, it's a professional collaboration when we work together. And that's how I treat all of my shoots. It's just a bit.
I think we are so different in this community. Everyone have different traits and different ways how they are. And I think because this community is so colorful, we're supposed to all be very respectful to each other. And when this respect and the trust is sort of like a little bit touched and like broken, then it shakens everyone. And then suddenly for a lot of people just become a scary place instead of safe place. Yeah. And I think most of us wants to make it safe place for everyone where you can say something and feel safe with the talks and people or cosplayers that you collaborated. And when situation like this comes to light after such a long time, because this wasn't happening over last year, this was happening a long time, then you feel like, oh my God, there's something in the background and I wasn't even aware.
And I think as well, the cosplay community is so vast in the UK now. It's really boomed, particularly since the pandemic. There's a lot of people of all age ranges, different types of cosplay, different types of photographers. And I think there's a lot of vulnerability out there for opportunists and for this type of thing to take place. And I think it is just a case of everybody just making sure that they try and keep themselves safe as much as they can. If you do go to shoots, try not to go on your own. Always try and take somebody with you, whether it be a friend, a family member, another cosplayer.
And that's not even just cosplayers.
Especially if it's an out-of-con shoot as well. Say again, Naomi?
I think that's not just for the cosplayer or the model's safety, that's for the photographer's safety as well.
Absolutely.
Much as we would like to think that it's just the photographer that could be the one that could do something, the cosplayer or the model could make something up to damage the photographer's reputation.
I mean, I've seen that coming from my sort of pre-cosplay days. I've seen that quite a lot where photographers and models used to shoot one-on-one all the time, and then they had a falling out, and the model makes something up about the photographer, and it goes viral. And until that photographer can try and prove themselves innocent, their career is destroyed. But also the same goes the other way around. A photographer could accuse a cosplayer of something. And whilst we're generally talking about males committing offences against females here, it's not unheard of the other way around. I mean, there's a couple of instances I've heard of in the last 6 months where females have done something or touched someone inappropriately or done something inappropriately towards another male. It's not unheard of, but unfortunately, it is largely the male community that seem to not be able to keep their urges and emotions in people just need to have a word with themselves. They really do. We're all in a position of vulnerability. It's a massive community, and there's no room for it anymore. People are more willing now to speak out about it, which is good. We've still got a long way to go, I feel, in that sense. There's still a lot of people out there that have had things done to them, said to them, made to feel uncomfortable, that they still suffering in silence, I feel. And they still don't want to come out about it because they might feel scared about the backlash, scared that they might not be believed.
Safety,
scared of the ordeal that they might have to go through if they've got to report it to the emergency services. And that's still not a great place to be. We've still got a really long way to go there.
I think the issue is, it's so scary coming forward about anything that's happened to you if it's negative, because if they've done that to you, what's going to stop them coming for you again for outing them? I'm not here for a witch hunt. I do not like that. If someone has done something to me that I feel is inappropriate or uncomfortable, I will always go to someone first, someone I definitely trust. And I will go to them first and say, I don't know what to do with this information, and sort of spread the overbearing weight of it onto more people. I think that's so important to do. It's so important to have those people that you can trust.
Circle support is one of the most important parts, especially in community like that. And these are the people who will notice it and do something about it, because if you get paralyzed and you're not able to, because it happens to you, the person next to you can do something about it.
Yeah, I think it's so dangerous to just come forward straight away without really thinking about it and just
yeah, exactly, without thinking about it, without having some sort of support network set in place for yourself and others around you.
Well, you don't know who's going to see it, and you also don't know how many people or who they have on their side.
Yeah,
that could maybe be louder than your argument. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think also, to go in off of what you're saying, is I think, and both me and Darren have mentioned this in past episodes where we've talked about it from a mental health perspective, but there are elements out there where you can, if you don't feel confident or confident to go to a friend because you feel like you're going to be judged or feel like there's going to be that negativity come from a friend, even though they're friends, in your head you might overbear it and overthink it. I know that feeling. I've dealt with all the blooming times. And there are support networks out there where you can speak to counsellors who are confidential, they are private, and you can basically have your say, and then there's no judgment there. But if you just need to voice it, then, and you don't feel like you can voice it to a friend because you're scared that will go back to somebody else, you can use like Health Shield, for example, or there are other ones that you can go onto the government website, and there is a list of different charity support agencies that support in different matters. I couldn't list them all because they're depending on what it is that you're suffering with or going through. There is a charity that are out there to support.
I think that's really important, Tom, as well, because like say sometimes it can feel a bit embarrassing coming out something to a friend, because you might feel embarrassed that it's happened to you, that you've let it happen to you, that you might feel that you were the cause even though you weren't. And sometimes talking to a stranger that's a specialist in that field, it can be good to let it out because you don't have to ever see that person again, so you're not going to be judged. But also they can give you advice on how to deal with it and the next steps, sometimes better than a friend might do. A close friend is always going to be quite passionate and have your corner and just want to ultimately defend you to the hilt. And sometimes getting that sort of bit of a stepped back advice from someone who isn't personally involved with you, I think can be really, really useful. But also I think people just in general, like, have got to be a little bit, I mean, emotions have run high this week, very, very high, naturally. But there's also been a lot of information out there that isn't necessarily that good for the community, like people saying that if you've had any other names forwarded to you or such and such, that, by not coming forward yourself, you're just as bad and things. And you've got to be very careful with that as well. Whilst if someone has some concrete evidence information that someone is doing something wrong, then absolutely you should do something with that. And if you don't, then that's a problem. But if someone's just said, I know someone that shot with Switch GN a few weeks ago and they had a bad experience, blah, 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 and such said such and such.
Well, rumors.
Without any context or evidence, what could we do with that? Not a lot. And unless the person actually involved is willing to come forward and speak to you about it, there isn't really much more you can do with that information, apart from maybe mention it to a few people that you trust, to keep an eye on that person. And if anything does gather pace from there, then obviously you can look to do things about it. But you've got to be very careful in this blame and cancel culture that we are not wrecking people's lives who are innocent.
I always say you have to go directly to the source.
Absolutely. But also, I know
your friend, you heard something about your friend, then you go to your friend and ask about it, and then you think about how to help them.
Absolutely. But also as well, if, you could come out with something that might be true, but actually in the background, there might be a criminal case already building against that person. And by coming out in the wrong way, you could do harm to that criminal case. a friend of mine many years ago, this happened to her, and some people came out about something because somebody had told such and such, such and such. And because of the information that came out, that person who had actually raped her got away with it. Because he was thrown out in court because information had been released it shouldn't have been, etc., etc. So you've got to be very, very careful. It's a very difficult line to walk, I think. And I think it's probably more useful for people to learn how to spot some of the things that might be happening to them, or spot some of the behavioural patterns in people that might not have the best interests at heart.
The problem a lot of times with situations like this, they're historical. Any historical crime have evidential limitations, and that's the problem. That's why I always say, when you spot something and it's happening now, do something about it now.
Absolutely.
Because when it's come historical, there are things add on to it, taken away from it. You forget things. You don't have that first initial, initial statement, initial connection, and you don't have the freshness of remembering what actually happened and what is happening. Not to mention about any forensic evidence that you can gather, but we're talking here about specifically statements from people around you. And I think it's very important to remember it, and then maybe that would give some kind of advice to people that when you see it at the moment, do something about it. When something you feel in your gut that something is not right, that means something is not right. That's how it should be.
Absolutely.
So, that's why we always have that. That's why we always have that saying is like, go off your gut instinct. If your gut is telling you something isn't right,
and it probably isn't.
It probably isn't, and you'll probably want to second guess the fact that your gut isn't right. It's natural to go, oh, something doesn't feel right, but I feel like I need to do something. You can still go ahead with it. But if your gut is physically saying, no, there is something clearly wrong or not right about it, 9 times out of 10, it's telling you for a good reason, and go with that instinct, go with that idea of.
And I mean, there's a lot of people in the cosplay community who are overthinkers. They might have a form of autism. They might be neurodivergent. They might, constantly be second guessing themselves. But I would always say that it's better to be overcautious about something and ask a few people for some advice, or get someone else's take on something, or take an extra person along to the shoot, or even in some cases, don't do the shoot. If you really think that is always a safer position to be in than for something to go wrong, or for someone to go down a path where they're put in a situation where further down the line, something comes out. At the end of the day, it's only a photo shoot. It's only cosplay. We're all in this for a bit of fun. Most of us aren't making a living from it.
No.
And safety should always be more important than getting those shots.
And have that friend around you. Have that friend, even if they're far away, 2 meters away, tell them to keep an eye on you, whilst you're talking with someone.
I was supposed to have a photo shoot tomorrow. We've had to postpone because of the weather. I love this country. But she messaged me last week, and she said, we're going to be shooting sort of out in the country at a country park. Is it okay if I bring a friend along with me? Absolutely. Bring 2 friends, bring 3 friends.
Bring your man.
It doesn't make any difference to me. In fact, I said to her, I like the company. Yeah. So whilst the cosplayer is messing around with something, getting ready, changing something, making sure everything's perfect, I can chat to their friend, or I can get the friend to hold a light, or if the friend needs a help with their cosplay, or there's a million and one reasons why having extra people on a shoot is a good thing. I can't think of a single negative reason to not have extra people on a shoot.
This is the only time this ever happened to me. But again, I'm not going to name any names, but I went and I did like a little photo walk in like February last year, maybe January, so it was like super cold. And I think like we were wandering around a town that I'd been to before, but I didn't really know it, a city even. And because I live in London, this was in South Wales. I obviously had to get the train the night before. So we were all in the city anyway. So it was like, well, we've got the time. Why don't we do a shoot in the evening and like use the city lights and do something really, really nice? And I was like, yeah, that sounds really good. Who's going to be there? And it was going to be me and 2 photographers, which I was completely on board with. I had made sure that my location was on so that my boyfriend could see where I was, or text my friends the second I get to a new location, or the second I got back, which I was absolutely completely okay with. I met these, both the photographers met me off the train, they got me to my hotel. They were really nice. And then once I'd got to my hotel room, they said, oh, another photographer is coming. And I thought, no, there isn't. We agreed it was just the 2 of us. The 3 of us, sorry, the 2 of you. And they were like, oh, but he's a bodyguard, so it's fine. No, because this big, strong man that I do not know is now coming on a photo shoot with a young woman in a city she doesn't know, in a totally vulnerable situation. So I said, no, this man is not coming with us. And they did not understand my point of view and were quite mean to me about it. But
I mean, that's a really valid point, to be fair, Naomi. Like,
well, he stood my ground and said, this isn't happening. He's not coming. You have to break the news to him that he has to go home now.
Yeah.
And
I think
drinking at the pub beforehand as well. So it was like, this isn't it.
A little bit. Yeah.
My gut feeling, I'm really annoyed. My gut feeling before I even left to go to this city, before I even got on the train, I was like, I don't want to go because I know something's going to go wrong. And it did.
Yeah, I think that is a really valid point, that whilst extra people on a shoot is good, I think the key is to agree everyone who's going to be in attendance there and then. So from both sides, from the cosplayer side, if they're going to be bringing people and who they are, and from the photographer's perspective, like, I would never rock up to a shoot, especially with someone I don't know or I've never shot with before, with an assistant without saying I'm going to be bringing an assistant. I mean, I take an assistant to a lot of my shoots now, mainly because I've started to get used to working like that because of my back, and because it's so much bloody easier. I always say I'm going to be bringing an assistant along. Sometimes it might be a friend, sometimes it might be Nat. But I'll say I'm bringing an assistant, and who it is this okay? Simple. And then I will always say to them, are you bringing someone with you? You're more than welcome to, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whoever really. More than happy to bring people along, because 9 times out of 10, if I compare all the shoots I've done over the years that have just been me and the model stroke cosplayer versus the shoots I've done where it's been me and the model stroke cosplayer with assistants or friends from either side, the latter are always the most fun.
Yeah.
100%.
You just, and as well as having extra people to help out, more often than not, you get more creative ideas, because they'll be like, oh, how about you try this? And I'm always open to trying ideas and things that people suggest, particularly if the cosplayer brings someone that they know, that knows a character or knows the show or knows the movie, because they'll start suggesting ideas as well. So it's just so many pluses. But you raise a really valid point in that agree all the parties involved beforehand. That's because, again, unexpected people showing up last minute without warning and information can be just as dangerous as being on your own.
I think it's very important what you said, Darren, about this, to speak with the cosplayer or the photographer beforehand, not only about who is coming, who they are, why they're coming, but also about just a specific thing. So even if you send a mood board, so both of you have specific expectations. Because if someone say, oh, we're doing just a cosplay, and then they say, oh, why can you just do like a little bit of lingerie or like, you know, a little bit of this or spiciness? Someone might not feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And there's a lot of stuff. Also, I've been in a situation where I agreed it's a collaboration and the person wanted money from me afterwards. And I'm like, that's not what we agreed on. So that's another part. And then, you know, that person can later feel obligated that they didn't pay and they don't have the money. And there will be some expectations from another person. And then that person can just freeze and not knowing what to do. Yeah. That's another part of it, when they feel used, because what I'm doing in this situation, we already after the shoot, you want money from me, I don't have any. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's again more valid points where just agree everything up front. In terms of the shoot, I'm starting to go back now more and more to using contracts that I just do via my website. So even if it's a TF shoot, I will normally, especially if it's someone I've shot with loads and it's a friend, I generally won't bother because we have that sort of relationship. But if it's people that I've not shot with much or it's somebody new, it'll go through the same contract as everything else. Agree everything up front, agree the location up front. Even if you're going to start in one location and then go for a wander, get the What 3 Words app on your phone. I'm quite late to this.
The amount of times I've used it's perfect.
I'm quite late to this. I only used this for the first time a couple of weeks ago when I was in Wales on a sports production shoot. And I'd heard of it, but I'd never used it. And we were all talking about it. And God, it's so damn useful.
It's so. I think a lot of film companies use it to.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. And it's so accurate now as well. So we were in near Kidwelly, in the middle of nowhere, in some cottages, and there was like 20 of us on this production shoot, and it really helped everyone find the locations. And then in the evening on the Sunday, a friend of mine who lives not too far away from there, I've not seen for years, she was coming around for us to catch up and have a coffee. So again, I could share my location with her, and just so damned easy, you know. So let people know where you're going beforehand. Say, I'm going to be here roughly in this location. Share the What 3 Words info. If it changes while you're there, update your location and send it to a friend, send it to a partner.
I also use, I know it's built into iPhones, and I think Google phones also have.
You can share your location with people.
Yeah. Mine is always on.
You can even do it on WhatsApp. You can literally do it for how long you want it, for 5 hours, for example, and you always share it. And then someone
I didn't know you could do that on WhatsApp until recently. When I was in Spain at Christmas, I took my drone with me and took the wrong set of batteries. So I was out there with my drone and I'm like, shit, I can't fly it. So I bought one on Amazon, and the Amazon driver in Spain phoned me via WhatsApp, said, I'm struggling to find you. Can you share your location with me for 10 minutes while I find you? And I was like, you can share your location on WhatsApp. And he talked me through how to do it. And I didn't even know how to do it. And I did it, and he found me like within minutes, and then you just turn it off, and away you go. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I use Find My
It's so useful.
My phone.
Really?
It's always on. I have it on all the time. I've got like all of my family, even though they are mostly in Wales, so they're not going to be able to help me out. But I've got my boyfriend who lives with me, and like my best friends and people I trust. And sometimes just have a check on them.
Just to make sure everything's all right.
See if they're what they should be.
If you have some friends that always check on you, it's good to also have kind of a safe word, as I say. And I know people think it's tacky, but in all honesty, it is such a useful tool because nobody will know that in the text message, you are actually putting a safe word, and then that person can check your location because you send it earlier, and they'll be like, that's something in, right? You know what I mean? And even if you're in a cons, and even if you are offline, because sometimes the signal it's not great, it's still working. It's still working because it uses a GPS. So more or less last place where you've been. And I think this needs to be said because a lot of times you get lost in a con, and then someone could stop you and say, "Oh, do you want some shoot?" And then they take you a little bit off some roads, especially like in Exeter where you can go into the car park or something. I mean, I'm sorry, but like this could happen to anyone.
And I think, I've seen a lot this week, people saying, you know, or if ever you're at a con and you're not comfortable, blah, 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 come up and say this to me. And then someone else, but, oh, yeah, come up and say it. And it's something else. This is something we touched about in our last segment, etiquette. And I'm going to say it again. I think the cosplay convention scene needs an industry standard term or word. Not one person come and say this, one person. It's too many things to remember. We need one term or one word that's known throughout the community. They have the Ask for Angela thing in the bar and club scene. And
why can you use the same?
Exactly. Exactly. Why not adopt the same term? But it really needs everyone to get on board with it. It needs events to get on board with it. Cosplayers, photographers, not just everyone trying to remember different things. Mm-hmm. I think
call me a certain name is something that
I think the Ask for Angela thing would be good because it's the same thing whether you're
worldwide now.
Cosplay, supermarket, shopping centre, wherever you are. If it's the same term, you're not going to forget it, and everyone is going to know what you mean by it.
Yeah,
and I think it'd be great if people got on board with something like this and cons adopted it. You know, if MegaCon, for instance, or MCM started promoting this within their safety literature, we're adopting this. I think it'd be a fantastic step forward.
I think it was really
would.
The community as a whole.
It would be amazing if they put those posters, like, for example, in the toilets or somewhere on the sides, especially on the parties. Like, you know, when you have a Fox party or a Novotel.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I honestly, this would be amazing because this happens so much in the cons and you can see someone's face from far away. But it's sometimes so busy that you won't. And someone is frozen. And when you get to them and you just ask to them, are you okay? And they will say, oh, do you know Angela? And then you will know. You will.
The thing is as well, like me and a friend of mine, we have emails. We email each other back and forth quite a lot. And he's a very good friend. And we talk about all kinds of things. And one of the things that's been cropping up in our conversations recently is, you know, what would you do if you were at an event and you thought that somebody was having trouble with someone in an unsafe situation? Would you step in? What would you do? How would you step in? And I think the issue is that it's not always easy to spot if someone's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because they might be trying to hide it. You might wade in and they might not be in trouble at all. And you might end up getting in more trouble yourself by wading in, or you might not wade in and help someone because it doesn't look like they're in trouble. So I think, again, if there was a term or that term was adopted across the board, I think it could be a really fantastic step.
Exactly. I know there was one that I picked up on when I was sort of a baby cosplayer and saw a lot of people posting about it. It was just pretend that even if you don't know me, pretend that I giggled because that's my name. Pretend that I'm your best friend and run up to me, give me a hug and say, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. And then sort of whisper, I'm in trouble or something. I need you to get me out of here. The amount of times that I've had to do that is fascinating, and just sort of get someone to out of eye shot of this person or anything like that. The other thing that I've picked up on that I thought I couldn't do was say no. But you don't have to say, no, thank you. You can. But if you're too nervous to say, no, thank you, if someone comes up to you and says, do you want to shoot, and you don't want to, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm on my way to find someone. I'm on my way to the toilet. I'm on my way to a panel. And just, it doesn't have to be true. Just go.
Yeah. That was something I always been raised.
You don't owe anyone anything. And it's the same for just someone saying, can I have a photo with you? You don't have to.
No, exactly.
I recently had one at a recent Comic-Con. Someone asked for a photo with me and I said, yeah, absolutely fine. I think I'd seen him the day before and we'd had a photo together. And he gave his phone to my friend and then turned to me and said, I'm picking you up. And this was not a strong looking man, even if it was. No, you're not. So I said, oh, no, that's not happening. And I think it's just having the confidence to say no. It's so difficult.
Absolutely.
But you have to.
And I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Even sort of like going slightly off on a tangent, but in the early days of being a con photographer, you know, get everyone and anyone coming up. Can I have a photo? Yeah. Can I have a photo? Can I have, yeah. And saying no is not something that's easy for some people. Over the years, it's something I've become more okay with.
Yeah.
But even now, I still feel guilty if someone asks for a photo when I say no.
It could be anything. You could be going on your lunch break. You could have just taken photos with 10 more cosplayers than you had set a limit for.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're going to say yes to everyone, then it's just not fair on you.
You always have this stigmatism around the word no, that it's a negative connotation to the word. Like, you feel bad because you go, oh, no, because every time we say no, it's generally in a negative way. But if we're saying no, it's not, sometimes it's not meant in a negative, in a way. And, no can be a very good word to use.
Absolutely.
I used to use it at work all the time because it's like, no, it's not bad.
Also, as well, people... Just that actual word. There are many ways to say no, but I often find the best word for it is simply no, because a lot of people, especially if they're up to no good, just actually no has more of a shock factor attached to it, because in many occasions they're not used to being told no. They're used to being told, oh, I don't know, maybe not, blah blah blah. Just the actual no in a lot of cases will shock somebody.
It's direct. It's almost
it's very direct, and it will make them think twice. Doesn't always work, but it's but also as well, it's a good one, because if there's lots of people around and you use a very clear no, other people around will have heard you tell that person no. There is no consent for what you're asking for. There's no consent for what you're doing. And there's no ambiguity about it. It's clean and clear. No means no. It's as simple as that.
Something that I wanted to say, you guys all know what I'm doing. And it's funny enough because many times I come across as a quite strong personality person, as I say. But there is this thing that when I see that there is something going on, that I see some suspicious person, or like my friend doesn't feel comfortable, I step in. When this happens to me, I freeze. Okay, I absolutely freeze. I don't know what to do. It's almost like there is something on the back of my head that it just makes me I don't know, crumble.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how to speak at that moment. I don't know how to say to someone and speak up, please help me, or give that look to someone close to me and say, please help me,
I think it's really like we were saying about having a safe word. I think having something, I quite often go to Comic-Con with my best friend, and we sort of just know each other so well. If someone's uncomfortable, we can figure it out, and we're like, we're leaving.
Me and Coffee Cat, we had this, but even when she's not around, I have those moments. Like, I even had that once when someone wanted to do, because we had to sit from the same lore character, and the person got closer to me and they sort of touched me in a weird way, and I just froze and I didn't know what to do until the moment when someone else came in and started talking with this person, and I just sort of slightly walked away and they didn't even notice I disappeared. And in that moment, I just get so paralyzed.
Oh my
gosh. It's insane. It's like a weird feeling. And until someone just gets me out of this situation, I don't know what to do. So because I know this feeling, when I see someone in this situation, that's where I step in. And it's weird that I cannot do it for myself.
Yeah.
For example.
It's easier to stand up for someone else than it is to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're able to process it in a way that you go, oh, something doesn't look right. Your instant, because it's not happening to you. You're going, oh, hang on, this doesn't look right. Something here's not right. So you're able to react to it. Whereas if it's happening to you, you're having to process what they're saying to you. You go, oh.
I think that
what is happening, what's going on, and you trying, it's almost like your brain just focuses on one thing. It's that paranoia situation where your brain just focuses on one thing and you don't know how to process it. And that's when we said earlier, it's so important that you have people around, because they will notice from outside. And that's why I think in this community it's good that we're trying to spread that awareness, because this way other people maybe will be more aware in the public places or in the big, events where this situation happens, and the same if your friend is going to tell you, oh, I have this photo shoot with this photographer, blah, blah, blah. Even if you not say to them, but you by yourself make an initiative, you check this photographer, you're going to have a look at their work, Facebook, Instagram, stuff. And you say, and you ask even someone, do you know this photographer? Or stuff like that. Even your own initiative to not make worry your friend and then later approach them because you talked about it, it is so important to do.
Definitely.
I want to go back to you saying about how like cosplayers who are cosplaying maybe from the same world or cosplaying couples. I think the respect goes multiple ways. I've had two experiences with this. I once was cosplaying Spider-Gwen, and someone who was masked cosplaying Spider-Man was like, let's get some couple photos. And I said, okay, who are you? And they would not tell me who they were. And we got some, like, I was pretty okay with it, sort of face holding, hugging sort of photos. And then I'm like, okay, but who are you? And right at the very end of this shoot, I don't know if it was an accident, but when I confronted them about it, they never apologized and went very protective of themselves over it. He touched my bum. I'm like, that's not, I don't know if it was an accident, but from the way that he reacted to it makes me feel like it wasn't. And I only found out who he was after that. And that's not okay. On the same vein, when I was cosplaying as Mighty Thor's Jane Foster, I was getting some photos with a couple who were cosplaying Thor and Valkyrie. And I can't remember who the photographer I was with, but he said, would it be okay if we got some Jane and Thor photos? Yeah, absolutely fine, no problem. And then he said, can we get some like sort of lovey photos? And we sort of both looked at the girlfriend. The guy cosplaying Thor immediately was like, no, I don't want to do this in front of my girlfriend because we're not actors, we are cosplayers. And that is a hard limit for him. So I was like, respecting whatever you want and whatever your girlfriend wants is absolutely my decision. And just because Jane and Thor are in a relationship, I don't know this guy, so.
Well, actually, it's good from the photographer that he asked you, and then you guys could make that decision. Yeah. Sometimes people just say, "Oh, get closer together," or like, "Can you touch their face?" or something, and people just do it in a moment, and they realize, actually, I didn't want it to do it. Why didn't you ask me before? We actually not in a moment when everything is just rushed.
Yeah, you know? I'm also very good at now. I think it fully comes from experience. But there's photographers like, they call it the money shot. I feel like everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's the whole sort of look back behind your shoulder. And I'm happy doing that with photographers that I trust and have worked with in the past and know that these photos are maybe a bit silly, aren't used against me or whatever. But I had a photographer, I was dressed as a Pokemon. Pokemon aren't sexy. I'm sorry that I think that, but Pokemon are not sexy.
No, they're cute and funny. That's what it is.
And he said, oh, go on, give us the money shot. Show us your tail. So I sort of just held up my tail and was like, I'm dressed as an animal. I'm not showing you my bum. That's weird. That's a really odd question. And I think it's just calling them out on questions are uncomfortable.
Again, I think it comes back to boundaries. Like,
because I've got a before with a photographer.
And the whole boundaries. And there is sometimes an expectation of people to do things without thinking. Sometimes it's not out of malice. Sometimes it's not in a creepy way. They will just ask from an expectation, and you should never expect anything, even if it's a person you've shot with a million times. Ask first, not expect. And if the person says no to something, don't be offended. I've known people to get really arsey sometimes when, photographers ask, oh, can you do this? And the person said, well, no, I don't really want to show you my bum or whatever because I I don't feel comfortable, or because of the job that I do, or because of whatever reason. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It's no, and don't be offended by it. Just move on and go, okay, absolutely fine. Let's get another shot. Or okay, what would you be comfortable with?
Yeah, I think me and you have shot enough together for you to know that if I tell you where to go, you know that it's sort of a joke. Or if you maybe suggest something I'm not comfortable with, I can say no, and like I'll know you won't be offended by it. But then I think that's why I've sort of pulled myself away a little bit from shooting at a convention, which is a public and a collaborative space. Pulled myself away from shooting with just anyone.
Yes.
And I think that's
because again, if you're shooting with people that you know how they're going to take if you say no. You know how they're going to take if you say something in jest, but also you're going to know what to expect from them. You're going to have that trust to a degree. Although, as we've seen this week, that's not always as it seems. But still, you've got at least that bit of knowledge there. Whereas if you shoot completely out the box with a fresh photographer, you might not know what they're like. You might not know what their rapport's like. And it's the same with me. My circle of people that I generally shoot with now at cons has just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's for various reasons. Backlog, interests, time, but those reasons as well. If I ask them to do a certain thing, they'll know it's for a certain reason and not for anything untoward. And also, I know that if I ask them to do anything that they're not happy or comfortable with, they can tell me, and I will always be like, absolutely fine. Let's work on what to do next. But also from the same perspective, if you're working with someone you've worked with and got a good rep with, you get better photos. Simple as that. If you're working with someone you're comfortable with, the photos speak volumes. That's not to say I won't shoot with anyone I've not worked before. I'm still making an effort to work with new people all the time.
Building that rapport with them.
But I think it would be great if, and I know one event in particular has been working on this idea. One event tried it last year and it didn't quite work. It would be amazing if events had, I know there's creator passes, press passes, etc. It would be fantastic if events had a photographer pass where photographers registered, not necessarily got a free pass. I don't care. I don't go to events to get free tickets, free passes. But if there was a service where I could register as a photographer, where as a photographer I would be vetted in some sort of way.
Almost like a DBS check, but for a photographer.
Yes. Yeah, or just some simple checks where the event, they look at your general behavior. Has there been any reports about this person? They look at your work. Yes, that person's been shooting in the community for a number of years.
But you know what would help in that registration? When something happens and there will be flagged by cosplayer, we will have this person details, so there can be consequences.
Exactly.
It's important to have.
When you're at an event, you see this person that's got a pass. Right, okay, they're registered. You would have that confidence to shoot with them for that reason that you said, Annie, because if there is an issue, there's a comeback.
I think that would be for new photographers who see a convention as a collaborative, they're going to have a lot more rejections. They can't build their... and
this is the problem. It is.
Then
and I get why, the event that's been working on this for a little while, I get why it's taken a while to implement.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to think about. And it's one of them things that if you're going to do it, you want to get it right. And I know they do.
That's why I like that you have
pitfalls in it.
Application.
Yeah.
Because I like that, because you know exactly who's coming. And if someone who, it's not just a random person buying ticket, you have to register, let's just say, put your details, what you actually want to do. So it's already expectation, and therefore you take in the tickets and then you have a list of people and you know who's coming. And I think that's brilliant. And I love this.
It might also...
I just want to go back very quickly to the consent before we lose it. I don't know if you ever seen this silly video called Tea and Consent. Have you seen it? It is brilliant, and if anyone wants to watch it, it's amazing because it shows exactly what is consent and what is not. Because, for example, from a funny one of the pieces, like if you come to someone and someone offers you a cup of tea and you say, yeah, I'll have a cup of tea, but then they fall asleep, it doesn't mean you have to pour into them cup of tea, because just a second ago they said they want it, but now they're not conscious and they don't want a cup of tea at this time. Do you know what I mean? But it is a brilliant video that shows exactly what it is. And I think people should see it, because that would also will have like a, you can transfer it to the cosplay community as well.
Really? Cosplay is
Right. Somebody wanted to say something and I kind of cut you off, and I'm so sorry.
That was fine. It was just going to go back to what we were talking about before, because you just kind of sidewinded me now.
Fog passes, I think.
Yes.
And then like registering for events like Secret Con and etc.
I think to add on to that one, and then I will add on a bit of consent as well. It's a hard process to go to like MCM, MegaCon, or LFCC, or anyone else to have a photographer pass. And like Darren said, it needs to be done right. But in some ways, even if you're registered, obviously you still got to be very mindful of who you're shooting with. Do your research, talk to your friends, whatnot. But I suppose by a photographer registering for an event, say like we do for Secret Con, but go into like a MegaCon, and you have that badge that says photographer written on it, maybe that does give an individual a little bit of peace of mind to go, okay, they are registered with the venue. With something. So you're not then, because anyone can bring a camera to an event. You don't know if it's just Joe Blogs who's just doing it for their own personal collection or whatnot. But at least then, if you're someone that's going, I don't know if I really trust everybody with a camera who's asking for photos, and then it's your decision then to go, I'm only going to then shoot with anyone who is registered with the venue.
Especially since mainstream events are open to everyone, open to the general public. Anyone can just walk in, and also particularly like if it's something like the NEC or whatever, a lot of people shoot outside. So the people that are out there are not even necessarily have a ticket for the event. Just anyone can just turn up at the NEC and shoot outside with a camera, and they might not necessarily be anything to do with the event at all.
Yeah, like going back to the whole consent thing, we've obviously touched on it a little bit. It's like, I think that I'm like Darren, I won't get offended if I'm shooting with someone, be it at an event, at a cosplay event, a arranged shoot or whatever. If someone turns around and goes, no, I'm not that's beyond my limits, I'm not interested, that I can't do. Me personally, that's great because you're communicating. You're talking with one another, you know where that limit is. So even though me as a photographer might have an idea and go, are you feeling comfortable for X, Y, Z? It's okay if you're not, but what's your thoughts on it? And if they go, no, that's beyond my limits, I go, okay, that's good, because I now know that that's a limit that we do not cross and we don't push past. And then it's working out that boundary. Okay, what is good, what isn't good. Then that's, again, is down to communication and talking. And something that I personally like doing before out of con shoots is I like to have conversations with the people I'm working with. I like to look at like what is it we're shooting, what is it we're doing, where are we going, what's your concept, what's your ideas, and trying to get that information, because for me,
that way
I
want to make the end of it.
Yeah, I want to get more from it. I want to make our 2 hours or whatever time together as worthwhile as possible. So by having, but then it also builds up a rapport with the person that you're working with. So you're not going, oh, I've seen you on the internet, I like your work, can we shoot? Okay, yeah, let's go shoot on this day. By having conversations on the build up to it allows me to build a rapport with a person so they can feel comfortable with me and ask questions and whatnot. So it's the consent sense there is important. And if they're not happy by the point we get closer to the shoot, 9 times out of 10 goes, okay, I'm not feeling it yet. Can we delay it? Yeah, it's fine. That's not a problem. As long as you're not delaying it on the day, because then that might cause a little bit of issues depending if you're paying for venues or whatnot, but that's a different matter. But you should never be worried to turn around to someone and just say, I'm not ready, or no. Because if you're not feeling it, it's going to show.
Yeah,
100% it's going to show.
You do need
something
to
else.
be comfortable when you go somewhere, do the shoot or collaborate with anyone, and it's so important to communicate. As you say, it's the number one rule of anything. To be fair,
I mean, just something else I wanted to touch on in this episode as well was types of content you might be shooting, and sort of boundaries and what to do. So a lot of people out there are shooting for Patreon sets, OnlyFans sets, Fansly sets, whatever that may be. It still shocks me that there are people out there that doing those sets, particularly with photographers that they don't necessarily know, that aren't setting boundaries. They don't have written contracts. All these things will help to cover you and help make things sort of legally binding and a little bit safer. It's like if you're doing a semi-saucy cosplay shoot, but not to lingerie levels, still everything like fully safe for work, and then all of a sudden the photographer rocks up and pulls a pair of handcuffs out of his bag and says, "Can you
live my life now?"
Or pulls like a whip out, or pulls some ropes out and goes, "I'm going to tie you up now." No, we didn't agree that.
No,
whereas if you have everything documented in writing, even if it's only in messages that you can screenshot and save somewhere to say, this is what we agreed, so we're going to shoot this, then this, then this outfit, this outfit, this outfit. This is the look we're going for. It is fully safe for work. No lingerie, no this, that, and the other. These are the boundaries. That's it. Or we're going to shoot a lingerie set. There's going to be this. The photographer at that point says, "Oh, can we do this?" And you either say yes or no. But it's all agreed beforehand. There should never be any surprises on the day or at the shoot, like suddenly pulling something out of the back. Like, okay, people always get new creative ideas during the shoot. I get that. I do myself. But nothing should ever be a change of boundaries or levels on the day of the shoot.
I shoot a lot in hotel rooms, in studios, whatever. I have had the experiences where we have discussed what we want to shoot that day, and maybe on the day I've had a breakout, or I'm not feeling as good as I normally do, or maybe I'm a little bit bloated, or maybe I just don't want to do it anymore. And I will say, "I'm really sorry. I know we planned to get this specific shot, but I'm not feeling it today. Can we do it another time? Can we keep that list of things that we want to do and come back to it when I'm feeling a bit better?" I have also had a photographer asked to recreate an old photo of mine. My most viral photo, I think it got like 20,000 likes on Instagram, which was a bit mental for me. Is a photo of me as Gwen Stacy wearing Peter Parker's suit, wearing Spider-Man's suit, and sort of like holding it up and like, "Oh no, I'm caught trying on your suit," kind of thing. It's very, very vanilla, I would say. And I had a photographer ask if we could recreate that, and I was like, "Yeah, happy to do that. I've done it before. Happy to do that." Okay, the cosplay he wanted me to do it with was a minor, and I'm not a minor. I'm 27. I think at the time I was about 23, 24. And he wanted to recreate it whilst I was dressed as an underage character, which I didn't really want to do that. So I said, we can shoot like sort of getting ready into my like suiting up kind of thing. And that's when the fluffy pink handcuffs came out. And I was like, no, we didn't discuss this. Put them away.
Absolutely.
And my best friend at the time was there, and he was very on board with, "No, either you're putting them away or you're getting out." Kind of thing, which was really, really nice. And I felt super safe because I had that person there to protect me. And also, I'm a big girl. I will tell someone where to go if I need to. But that doesn't mean that if I was by myself, he could have come for me or
Yeah.
made me do it, even though I am stronger than him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had people before that I've been, agreeing to shoot, or they've been wanting to shoot maybe a not safe for work set, and it's been cosplay related. But then they've said, that they've mentioned the character, and that character is either portrayed as a minor in the show or is a minor, and I'm like, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
I don't.
It's doesn't matter if you're an adult doing that cosplay, if that character is a minor, has always been a minor, never been perceived as an adult in its character life, then I'm not interested, because that's just a road that I won't go down. But also, I think, go on, sorry, Naomi.
I think I've also learned a lot from, I would consider myself as an older cosplayer. I've learned a lot from people who have just started. A lot of my friends see that I do this for work, and so sort of want to get involved. And so I'll go along with them for shoots. I really struggled to say no, I think I'm finished now. Or like ending the shoot or ending this specific set, or maybe saying, I think it's the next person's turn kind of thing. I really struggled with that, and I would go until the photographer says, okay, do you want to change? But I did a shoot with my friend, and I just sort of watched her, and she was doing really, really well. And then suddenly she just went, I'm done. And I was like, oh my God, I can do that.
Go.
Okay, so I'm taking a leaf out of her book, and it was like her third or fourth shoot ever. And I'm like, I'm taking that. I'm going to do that. And I think learning these little things from your friends and people around you, I think is so, so good.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
As much experience as I have, I'm still learning from her.
I think we never really stop learning. I mean, I've been a photographer now for 30 years. And I'm still learning, and I'm not ashamed to say that I do still learn things now from people that are new in the industry, new in the community. People ask me for help and advice all the time from my experiences and my skills, but at the same time, I will quite happily listen to people if they have an idea and suggestion, and I often look at people and think, that's actually really cool. I really like that idea. But I think it's also a good time to touch on the whole hotel shoot situation, because it happens a lot. I mean,
very easily accessible.
It is. People have different views of the hotel shoots. I have my own personal views. I've done hotel shoots, and I still do them occasionally, but I think for me, it's that there are certain boundaries that need to be set, particularly if you're shooting with someone that you don't know very well. And if you're shooting during a con weekend or something, to be shooting at either their hotel or your hotel and you don't know them very well, I think is potentially a bit of a risky business, particularly if you're not taking someone with you that can help out as well, because ultimately you're either in a position where you're in your own hotel, you might need to ask someone to leave. How do you do that if it goes wrong? Or you're in their hotel, and it can just get very, very awkward. So for me, if I'm doing a hotel shoot, if it's someone I don't know, I'll just see if I can hire another room for a couple of hours.
A lot of hotels let you do that. I think
they will do. Yeah, particularly during the day. They're not occasionally they'll do it in an evening if they've got rooms empty, but during the day, there's a day use. There's a day use. That's right. There's a website you can go on and you can get some really good deals, and it's a much safer way of doing it because they know why you want to hire the room. You've not got anything to worry about that you've got to stay there after. So it's just generally a much safer way of doing it. I have shot in the past in either a cosplayer's room or my own room. If it's someone I know really, really well, I know me and yourself, Naomi, have shot. I think it was at one of the Mega Con Birmingham events, but it's not something I try and make a habit of unless I know the person really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not something I would promote doing. it's just a bit of it's not the easiest way to keep yourself safe unless you are taking someone with you that
people where you are
can help, or just, exactly. So even if you're having a friend there in the hotel, or a boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever, sat down in the lobby, having a drink, waiting for you, if anything goes wrong, or if you say, right, I'm going to be 2 hours, and all of a sudden 3 hours later, at least give that person the room number, the details. They can go and knock on the door. At least there's precautions you can take. But again, set the boundaries, set the theme of the shoot, set what's going to be shot, how it's going to be shot, how it's going to be used. These shots that we're taking, if the photographer has asked you to shoot them, what is your intention for the use of these images? Are they for your purple port? Are they for, do you have a Patreon that you sell them? Are they for Instagram?
If that's for Patreon, are you going to pay me? If you're making money out of this.
Exactly. Is there going to be, how are we going to share the money that you're going to make from it? And the same can be said for if a cosplayer asks a photographer.
100%.
Agree all that in advance so that there's no surprises, there's no shocks. You want to be confident that it's not for their own wank bank or however you want to put it. Their own personal gratification.
That's probably a better way of saying it.
I like to be brutally honest, you know me.
We know.
Just agree everything, set the boundaries, get all the information up front, and preferably in some sort of written form, even if it's only in a message or a DM on Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever. At least you've got something then to refer to further down the line.
To touch on that, I don't think people have no idea about how many cases, how many situations there are literally decline or, NFA only because there is not enough evidence to show what actually happened, right? A lot of times
to what's the opposite of recommend? Unrecommend. Flip chat.
Yeah, but also
absolutely.
You know how sometimes you're doing the videos, doing the shoots, so you can show that you've done? I think that it is a great tool also for cosplayers' safety, because when you do the videos while you're doing the shoot, anything that happens is recorded. That's one. Second part is always think about alternatives. Like you said with the hotel shoots, to have another room, to have someone there, to know people where you are, to screenshot messages, because sometimes people delete them. Now there is this feature on WhatsApp that the messages delete after 24 hours. If someone sets it up, make a screenshot, download the conversation with anyone. It doesn't matter if you're sure of the person, I would still do it, because then you have any evidence you can.
And I think if you are sure of the person, they'll respect
fall out.
People fall out, exactly.
Fall out, relationships change. And even if you've known the person for years and they're your best friend, as this last week has proven, things can still happen.
People also change. Sometimes you think you know the person, but actually you don't know them at all, because you see them only in events. You don't maybe see them on a daily basis. You don't live close to them.
I sometimes feel that there's, because everyone is into the same thing, on the cosplay, I sometimes think that there's a little bit too much trust in the cosplay community. People sometimes trust, like people will know someone for 5 minutes and all of a sudden they are their friends. And I have made some really, really amazing friends through the cosplay community in the years that I've been in it. But also at the same time, the majority of the people that I mix and interact with, dare I say it, are not my friends. They are acquaintances. They are just people that I know that share the same passion as me. They're not friends. I don't know them well enough to call them friends at that point. That's not to say that they'll never go on to become that.
Right.
But you see a snapshot of that person in a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday at an event.
And sometimes they're on their best behaviour.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're interacting with them as well a lot outside of the events, not just at shoots, but, you know, going for drinks, meeting some other friends of theirs, family, etc., gaining some knowledge of that person. That's when you can go on to say someone is a friend. I know enough about that person. And even then, we don't always know everything that we need to know about a person. And sometimes the signs that people don't have our best interests at heart are difficult to spot.
Sometimes we don't see it because we love this person so much and we're so close to them that we choose to be blind to it until someone tells us about it. That's the truth also.
The person I have as my, what's the word, chaperone for every shoot is the person that lost my respect the most. Yes.
And also it's important to challenge bad behaviors. We need to learn how to challenge bad behaviors. I think it's still so little times when people challenge, they're afraid of rejection from the community.
Absolutely.
They're afraid what the people think and say. And so we are struggling with challenge the bad behaviors. That's why they come out so late the time.
I think it should
the moment they actually occurred.
I think it shouldn't be like an immediate post straight to your story, make a witch hunt sort of thing, tell everyone, but maybe drop them a message or talk to them in person first and say, hey, I really didn't like that, and sort of judge them by their reaction and what they do to then change. Then if they don't change or if they become worse, that's when it sort of needs to be, okay, we need to let
exactly.
I think an immediate witch hunt.
And also as well, if you're, you know, if a friend is doing something that you think is wrong, or if you're told something about someone that's a friend and you challenge that person, generally their overall reaction to that challenge will tell you a lot.
Yeah.
So if they just go into like full on hit it back, argumentative, denial mode, that for me is normally a red flag.
Yeah.
You know, if they go into fight or flight mode, then there's normally some kind of reason for that. If you're telling them this and they're like mortified that this is being brought to them, that people might think of them in that way, then quite often they've generally not really done much wrong and they just didn't believe that or didn't understand or didn't realize they were putting themselves across in this way. If all of a sudden they're going, oh no, I can't believe blah, blah, then there's generally something wrong. Why are they reacting like that?
They won't like that. I feel like it's a bit telling.
It's also, it sounds like they actually did know, but they're like, oh, you know, oh shit, I've been found out. Oh, how do I...
What you did.
So I recently actually started doing a little bit more. I have 2 accounts for obviously cosplay, and I started doing a little bit more spicy pictures. And I started getting weird, like creepy messages over that account from the people that I sort of thought I know, let's just say. And then when they start messaging you with like even the thing to saying a picture when you have from the front and they say turn around, for example.
Yeah.
I find it creepy, right? And I think when you get message like that and you feel uncomfortable with it, challenge it straight away. Because you're giving permission to that person to like fuel it to the fire, like to say more about it. You're giving them permission to say more comments about it until it comes to the point they will comment it publicly and they will think you're okay with that. Or even thinking when they see you face to face that you gave them permission to do something more.
Exactly. I think the more you allow a person to overstep your boundaries, the more that they will think that it's okay. Yeah. And the more boundaries they will continue to overstep. And then before you know it, you're in a situation where they feel though they can do what they want, that it's okay. And you're not even realizing that they're doing it.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you're now okay with it without really being okay with it. Makes sense.
And I think ignoring is also not the resolution. So like sometimes people will just ignore it and not reply for the messages. I still think this is not a resolution, right? Because they didn't hear no.
Exactly. This comes back to what we said earlier.
Yeah.
Even if it's short and sharp, just use that word no, even in a message.
Don't be
No,
afraid of
Aaron.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think also people are a bit quick to jump on a bandwagon and go straight to being public with their grievances. Going back a little bit in the conversation, where I think if you confront someone in private, you're more likely to have an honest conversation about it or have that understanding. But if you go straight to your stories, close friends or a public story, and jumping straight down there, of course the other person is going to be pissed off because you
and this kind of relates as well to something we said earlier about, you know, sometimes people will particularly last week we're calling people out going, oh, if you knew about this, blah blah blah, then
it's
people
so
may
hard
not
to
have
say
known
something sometimes, and I think it takes a lot of courage.
Exactly, but also these people that are saying this might not realize that maybe some people behind the scenes were confronting this person directly.
Yeah.
And just because somebody wasn't saying something public doesn't mean that things aren't going on behind the scenes.
I feel like I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it because it feels like we needed proof from this person before it became a thing. And because they were so open about saying, yeah, I did something really bad and I'm going to remove myself. That was really sort of that, and that was also sort of the confirmation we needed before we. And I also don't think we realised the extent of it. Me personally, I thought maybe there were 5 or 6 of us involved.
But I also don't think the right way is to sharing all the messages because you're exposing not only the perpetrator but also the victim. Even if you don't say the name, a lot of people know each other in the community, and you can kind of guess. And I don't think this is the right way to do it.
No, exactly.
Like, it is the right way to put on the story about it and speak about it and share it so other people have awareness about it. But I don't think this pointing fingers is the right way forward in my perspective.
I'm happy to put something if the person concerned has said, will you do this, or has given me permission to do so. If not, it's not my story to share.
Exactly.
It's also, we won't necessarily have all the proof and evidence around the situation. We might know some information or have inkling or maybe think that there's something going on, but until you have that hard proof that it's happening, there's not really anything you can do. So even if you're sat on something for about a year, but you don't physically have any evidence, it's a speculation. It's like,
I think what scares me
on me, I can't say anything.
Yeah, I think what scares me is that if you do just go out all guns blazing and you have no evidence, they can come for you, and that pins
and it's always an allegation until proven guilty. Do you know what I mean? Until proven guilty.
It's horrible to think that, like, say someone comes to you today with some information, blah, 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 but you've got no proof. And then, like, you could be sat on that for a year, not really able. And more people in that time can be harmed. But at the same time, it's just such a difficult situation to be in. And not only that, but some people just don't like confrontation. They can't deal with confrontation. And they know full well if you put that information out there, something could come back and you could end up in a very confrontational situation. And I mean, I'm quite happy dealing with confrontation. If somebody wants to confront me about, I
think we always should go down the escalation route instead of escalating route. And I think these days a lot of people like to make things big, especially if it's online. And I don't think this is the right way. Like, I'm sorry, but most of us are adults. Don't hide your face behind the screen. If you want to do something and you want to do it right, I think the best way is to go to this person face to face. And actually, you would be surprised how good reaction you're going to get. Because not only you can see, not the way they speak, but also verbal and non-verbal communication. And you can judge by this what this person is actually saying and how this is actually going. And this way you will have your even first proof to show and, I don't know, report it, make a case out of it, put this person to consequences or something like that, because I think this is the best way.
And again, their response from being challenged normally tells
everything
along the story. Yeah, exactly. If all of a sudden they either, come at you really confrontational, or all of a sudden just delete all their social media accounts, then looks a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But also by doing something face to face with someone, I don't want to use the word respect, but you are showing some respect in the fact that you're confronting someone physically. It is so easy, and we're so used to be able to be everyone being keyboard warriors, either being at a computer or your phone, saying what you want without having that face-to-face confrontation with someone. It's so easy to type at a screen and not feel that confrontation. If you have the guts to call someone out, have the guts to call them out face-to-face.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I've always had this saying, is like, if someone's got a problem with me, come and say it to my face, because I will more likely listen to you and go, all right, that's fair. If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's
but I also know that
situationally, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, say someone was assaulted by their best friend, you're not then going to go up to them and say, hey, you did this and I'm really angry, if you know that they are an angry person.
But then if you know they're an angry person, maybe bring them into a public space where there's a lot of people around, so that you feel safe to be able to say something to them.
And again, I think it comes down
experiences. It's just not something that was possible. Maybe again, it's just situational because of the.
Yeah, well, again, you're right. I think different people in different situations. I mean, some people are much happier and more comfortable dealing with someone face to face. Some people are more happy doing it either over the phone or in messages, but in the right way. It's whatever someone feels comfortable with, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, sort of taking it to the person, or at least somebody taking it to the person direct and going, this is what we've heard. Would you like to respond? And see what the reaction is.
Maybe that's how I should have really phrased it, is being direct instead of face to face, being direct with that person on a one-on-one basis, instead of I don't want to be what I said to be misconstrued around it. So maybe so.
And also then that gives the person the opportunity, if they haven't done anything wrong, to fight their corner. Because it might be just misallegations. It might be just misunderstanding. Someone's got something against them. At least it gives the opportunity for that person to tell their story. As soon as it goes public, then trial by social media kicks in, and that person is already on patch.
For the people around them, like, for example, I don't want to talk too much on it. I'm trying to be as vague as I can. Would struggle to publicly tell people something, so I will tell my friends and people I trust so that I can protect them. I just have an instinct to protect everyone, but I'm struggling to learn, and I'm in therapy for it. I can't protect everyone. I can't. What I should focus on is protecting the people around me and my friends. So instead of going to social media and saying, hey, this person's awful, do not be friends with them, I can say to my friends, look out for this one. Also, if I was to post online and say, no, not a nice person, do not interact with, whatever, blah, 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 I feel for their partner, their mum, their friends, because they get so much backlash. I had a friend falsely accused of something a couple of years ago. I say a friend, it was my partner's friend. But the amount that it affected me was insane. And I barely know this guy. But the social media outbreak at him affected
because the people around them get judged as well.
And
they have to deal with the fallout.
Just like you guys, for example, when this whole situation started with the talks, and I actually was totally unaware on the beginning because I was out of the Instagram for a while. And suddenly I see these stories about when all the talks saying, oh, I'm sorry the situation happened. I'm sorry for people affected, etc., etc. And I kind of got to the point, started thinking back when I didn't know, and it's like, oh my God, one person from the community of togs did something, and then everyone puts the togs in one bucket.
Mhm.
How unreasonable is that? So you had to say something. You just, guys, you had to say something because you didn't have a choice, because people were literally blaming suddenly everyone, or you blaming
And
elder
that's
players,
really
That's what I
difficult.
mean about the whole, like, it's one person, one person that's picked up.
Yeah,
And that's affected Darren, it's affected Switch, it's affected, like,
everyone.
Yeah, because the situation last week will have, without a doubt, affected people's outlook on photographers in the community.
Mhm.
It will affect the way they think and work with photographers,
Mhm.
maybe change the type of work they want to do with photographers for a time. And as shit as that is, as a photographer, I get it. I understand it. And if, to be fair, if people all of a sudden no longer want to shoot certain types of stuff with me for a while, or don't want to shoot for a while, full stop, I'm okay with that as long as it keeps people safe. If all of a sudden, by people just thinking a little bit and stepping back and going, I don't know, for a little bit, I don't want to shoot that, or I don't want to shoot that, or I don't want to shoot with these people, I'm okay with that as long as it makes people safer. It's shit. It has a knock-on effect on the whole community. But I get it. You know, and there were a lot of people posting about, oh, you know, just want to come out in the support of these togs that I've worked with. So I just want to let people know that these togs are safe people to work with. I mean, I was named on a few of them myself, and it's extremely flattering. However, and I think it was Abby Opalink that I saw post first about this, and it just made me take a step back and think, actually, she's got a point. And that's that the person that was being called out would have been on those lists just a few days before. You know, people thought that person was safe. So it is, you know, whilst it is really, really flattering and nice to be on those lists, where people consider me safe to work with, at the same time, you know, that person was on those lists a few days before. So, you know, it's just a really horrible and difficult situation, I think.
I was just wondering if you guys have some questions with regards of like a different point of view of outside all the situation, and not necessarily just on the cons, but in safety in general, because I have kind of, you could say, internal view. So if you have any questions, and also because of what I do, this is like to put it out there. If anyone privately would ever want to talk about it and to know how to, I don't know, report something or how to feel safer. Recently, we had lots of talks about violence against women and girls, which happens everywhere all the time. If anyone have any questions and ever wanted to, you know, my DM is always open, and I would be happy to answer these questions. So
yeah, I think that's a really good one to touch on, actually, Annie. You know, because sometimes you might be in a situation like that, or you might at some point get put in a situation like that, and all of a sudden not know how to deal with it, who to turn to, who can I tell, who can I call, who can I message, you know, or they might want to learn about some information of how to deal with that sort of scenario if it should happen in the future. You know, and I'm sure there's a raft of information out there. So that, yeah, but that will be a really good thing to do, obviously. I just wish there was I know a few people have been talking about this in the community. It's an idea that I've had for a good few years, and that if there was some sort of like community space, if you like, that was run by people that were perhaps vetted, they maybe attended events as well, somewhere, you know, to go to, some people to look out for, people to go to for advice. But there isn't really any sort of like one body or any organization within the
maybe
cosplay
we
community.
could do some kind of like a cosplay photographer collaboration community. I don't know, welfare people, welfare cosplayer, or welfare dog. And this way, if we called it like a welfare space,
Yeah, I mean,
people could reply to the messages of people, and then it could be sort of anonymous.
I've been talking to someone in the community, a couple of people in the community, about this very thing, and it's sort of in its very, very early stages, because I'd had an idea about this sort of thing over the last couple of years and have been working on things in the background. And this cosplayer in the community had also had ideas. So we've got kind of started getting our ideas together, and then other people have started coming with ideas as well. So, hopefully we can make something like that in the future. Or
I think
I would be happy to help with that, especially from the side, from a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also important to say that you are, if a photographer you don't know has asked to work with you or anything like that, then it is absolutely okay to message. Maybe go onto their account, look for other models they've shot with, and message them and say, do you have any problems with this person or not? How are they? Were they okay?
Exactly.
Should I avoid? That kind of thing.
Exactly. See if there's anyone on their profile that that you can message. First off, I see you've shot with this person. What are they like to shoot with?
I get
blah blah
messages
blah.
all the time, and I am more than happy to respond and tell them my exact truth. And I will say exactly how it went. Exactly.
As a photographer, I get messages from cosplayers all the time as well, saying, "I've been approached by this photographer for a shoot. I've never shot with them before. They've not really done much cosplay by the looks of their profile. Have you heard of them? Any advice?" And again, I've been in this game a long time. I'm always happy for people to message me and go, "Do you know this person? Any advice and any info? I'm looking to shoot with them." Or even if you had a problem with someone, many people know now I'm a director of Secret Con as well. So again, it sounds like a cliche, but my DMs are always open to people that want advice, want info, want to share something, or just want to vent.
Yeah,
just want to scream from the rooftops, feel frustrated, whatever.
I also think I'd like someone to let me know if they spot me doing something or shooting with someone or just hanging out with someone that has caused issues in the past. Me, and so I know, rather than just being like, "Oh, she'll figure it out eventually," kind of thing. But also, if you can ask a photographer if they don't have any of their work on their Instagram profile, or if they're relatively new, say, "Can you send me some work?
Portfolio or something.
Send me anything. Just send me your shot." And Google reverse image search them. I do that with every single.
Yeah, I do that with everyone too.
I want to check that.
Yeah, it's a great service.
And the amount of times it's like, "Oh, this photo was taken in 2007 by someone in Colorado. I'm not shooting with you because that's not your photo."
Yeah, but also as well, if anybody ever sees me do something that they think might be construed a wrong way or thinks might be, just drop me a message and say, just want to give you a heads up on this, dude. And I'd be like, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that," or "Actually, you got a good point. Yeah, my bad."
And I think it is a lot of it is the way that someone responds to something is so important.
Yeah, because different people can be triggered by different things as well. And, you can try and be as careful and respectful as you like, but you've always got to be second guessing how someone might react to something, might react to something you say, might react to something you do. And the world's a vast place full of different types of people. And if ever I've done something that might make people feel a bit strange, or I'm quite happy for them to say, "Sorry, can you not say that? Can you not refer to me like this? Blah, blah, blah." And I say, "Yep, sorry." And address it.
This is an interesting one. My best friend is a wheelchair user. She's an ambulatory wheelchair user. So sometimes she just uses her stick. Sometimes she's okay. Most of the time at convention, she'll either be in her chair or using her stick. And she still wants to have photos taken, because just because she's in a wheelchair doesn't mean she's not pretty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and she, for the most part, people are really understanding, really accommodating. Photographers will get to her level, which is really nice sometimes. And yeah, people are usually really, really lovely. It's usually when she's using her stick. And I think because she decorates it, they're like, that's a prop. That's not a walking stick. That's not an aid to keep you standing. And she has had photographers sort of reach out and pull it away from her and like, no, I need that to stand. And I think obviously she sort of has to stand up for herself with that sort of thing. Pardon the pun. And she's very good at saying, no, I need that, because otherwise she will be on the floor. But I think it's a case of, God, ask if you think it's a prop, ask before you're going to touch it. If you can see that this person is using a walking aid and you think, maybe this photo would look really, really good without it, find a different accommodation. Ask them.
Especially if 9 times out of 10, like that particular character, you would never seen in the show or the game or the movie with a prop like that. You know, naturally, I would think, that's probably not just a prop. I better ask.
Yeah.
It just, you know.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the person is going to have more respect for you for asking first.
Absolutely.
Than they are for just trying to
more likely figure out a way that they can do it without it. Like we've got the grey walls at the hotel. Maybe lean her against the wall and take it away from close by rather than just taking it off her. And I think if you just go and take it off her, she's probably less likely to say, well, we can figure something out. Do you know what I mean?
It's going to get that person's back up straight away.
Yeah.
You know, it's not helping to build that relationship, that bond to get the, you know, you're going to be less likely to want to go out of your way, aren't you, essentially?
It also comes back a little bit to a thing that we all know about within this community, especially from a photographer cosplay perspective, is like, I as a photographer shouldn't be touching a cosplayer or a cosplayer's props without permission first. It's like, okay, if you've got a prop,
rule that everyone knows about.
It's an unsaid rule, and it's a rule that we've voiced on here loads of times before. And it's like, if I was to say, look, okay, prop for the shot that we're doing, are we able to do this? And I always try and use my hands to be visual guides instead of touching. And if it's not quite going the way it is,
do it to yourself.
Where it comes really great. Yeah. It's like, do you mind if I touch the prop, or do you mind if I do this?
Or ask them if they could just move their hair out of the place. And this is another good reason for them to encourage them to bring someone else along with them. If it's a close friend of theirs or a partner, you know, 9 times out of 10, you can get them to help, or the cosplayer will be more willing for that person to help move if they're unable to do it themselves than just to have a photographer wade in and start moving hair out the way, or you know, tucking a shirt in, or so. It's just, it seems like common courtesy and manners, but I still see so many people not doing it. It doesn't matter how many times I've shot with a person, how many years I've known them, I will still ask every single time. I mean, there's some people I shoot with in the community that will say at the start of the shoot, if there's anything out of place, no problem at all, move it, touch you where you like, blah, blah, blah. That's fine, but I will still say, that's out of place, blah, blah, blah. Don't just like go in. Even if they've said at the start of the shoot, you can do whatever, that's not just a blanket open invitation to me to just start moving props, tucking in shirts, pulling things up, moving creeps in.
Almost it also becomes like, if you're doing it nearly every shoot that you're doing anyway, it becomes second nature. So even if someone like me and Annie was in the shoot, I go, Annie, and you went, oh no, just touch me wherever, like for the whole shoot, I'd still be going,
yeah,
it's
you automatic, okay? Isn't it? Yeah,
it's an automatic thing. It's not that I haven't listened to what you said. It's just that part of my process as a photographer is, all right, I need to, are you okay with me doing this? It's constant communication and checking and making sure that you're comfortable, you're happy, and it's not
common courtesy as much as anything else.
It is common courtesy. It's like you're invading someone else's space. I mean, How many people have been at a supermarket and you've had that one person that's breathing on your neck and you're just there going, will you just F off? Because if you don't, you're like, you're in my space, just go away.
Yeah.
You're invading someone else's space. It's just a common courtesy to just be polite and go, do you mind? Or are you happy? And if not, they'll say, and you'll be like, okay, that's not a problem. It's like, and then you can try and describe what it is that you want them doing. If not, you mimic what you want them to do.
Absolutely. My favorite thing is when I'm shooting like a boudoir sort of shoot with someone, and the guy's like, can you do like, and sort of poses himself. I just think that's the funniest thing.
I know. I actually
I do that in boudoir shoots that I do, because do you know what? If you're as you girls as the models, and if I have to try and explain a shot, and you're like, I don't quite get what you're trying to say, I'm like, right, okay, let me do it. One, you're gonna piss yourself laughing because one, I ain't that fucking flexible, and two, it builds that rapport a little bit because it's got you happy, it's got you laughing. And you're like, okay, I see what you're trying to do.
It builds that comfort zone.
It looks
it's even better if you're recording.
Let me do it better.
It's even better if you're recording behind the scenes as well.
Exactly.
And it's like, if anyone's shot with me, they know I'm always on the floor laying down doing something stupid, or a boudoir shoot. I'm always like, I mean, Steph does it to me every time. She's like, okay, can you just do that one pose with your legs up on the wall? And I'm like, I'm there just like trying to flex myself in a position. So you can have fun with it. You can have a laugh, and you can make if you can make it, especially as a photographer, I like making a fool of myself because it puts the model at ease a little bit. And it's like, hey, it's all fun. As long as you're having fun, then
absolutely,
it's good.
Absolutely.
I even recently had that situation when I did for the Valentine's photo shoot. First time with the photographer we met, and I drove there, and I'm going there, and later we had fun, we laughed, all that stuff, and then he said at the end, like, I didn't know how it's gonna be. I was so nervous because this is the first time I had a photo shoot with you, and I thought maybe we're gonna be like awkward, not talking, and it's a boudoir and stuff like that. But because I was silly and I just sort of done all the stupid ADHD stuff that I do normally, it just sort of made it like more relaxed environment with all the silliness and everything. And it just also creates rapport, it breaks the ice between you and that wall. And then you know how this person reacts. And then you're more comfortable with asking these questions, that communication and everything. And first of all, you're having fun. That's what all we do we doing this content and everything what we do as a creative stuff. It's all about having fun. And when you create that space, uncomfortable space, you're not having fun. Therefore, what's the point doing that? Do you know?
No, totally. So I guess really we're probably going to round this up fairly shortly, but is there anything else that any of you guys can think of you'd just like to mention?
I guess we touched on almost everything.
Yeah,
I
think this has been quite a useful one, and I'm keen for us not to sort of like ramble on too much and dilute the info and tips that we're putting out to people. But I guess in summary, it's just for photographers and people like that out there, just think before you act and say. Always get consent. Don't be afraid or offended if somebody says no. And for the cosplayers out there, just try and look out for yourselves and the people around you. Try and not think that every situation could go wrong, but at least think what you might do if it does, and at least think beforehand, is this person safe? Do as much as you can. I think
don't be scared to say no, and don't be scared to listen to your gut. And that goes.
Think about number one. Think about number one a lot of time. Think about others, but also when you are in the situation, think about number one.
And don't be scared.
Your own safety is important.
Totally. And don't be scared to sort of, reach out to someone, even if it's in the DMs, and ask them and challenge them on something. And if you are a victim of something, don't think that you have to suffer in silence. Don't think that no one will believe you.
Exactly.
You know, get some advice from the people around you. Try and build that confidence to come forward with your story, not necessarily publicly, but just bring it out in the open to get advice. And because the chances are, if you've suffered something, someone else around you may have suffered from the same person.
And you might be the first person who give a courage to others.
Absolutely.
The other thing.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just look out for yourself, also look out for others, but it's being strong and knowing the fact that there are support networks out there as well. So even if you don't feel like you can go to a friend because you feel judged, remember there are other avenues out there that can help and support, and that's the whole point that they're there for in the first place. Another tip that got said to me when I went through therapy and counseling, and it doesn't work for everyone, but sometimes they say writing it down. Getting it out of your head, get it on a paper, or get it out on the computer if you feel more comfortable. Sometimes someone like that, if you're worrying about something, you could write it down. It didn't work for me per se, but
it worked for me.
There we go. See,
and if you're shooting,
different works.
And if you're shooting, or you're planning on shooting sort of content, Patreon, OnlyFans, etc., just get everything agreed. What you're doing, what it's going to be used for, how it's going to be used.
Set your boundaries
any
with your patrons as well,
payment,
not just with the photographer.
Yeah, exactly.
I also, going back to the writing it down thing, I think it's really good because I personally have the worst memory, and I'll say, "Oh, this person was really mean to me," and someone will say, "What did they do?" And I'll go, "Oh, I don't know." So having that all written down sort of keeps it fresh in your memory,
and gives a timestamp, you know, and the timeline when things happened. It helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Especially like write down how you're feeling at the time as well, not just the situation of what's happened, but
definitely.
How did it make you feel?
That's a good point actually.
How are you feeling emotion? Like, talk about your emotions. Allow that to be an avenue there that you can go, emotionally I was at this level.
Yeah, don't be afraid of literally expressing it.
Yeah.
Always one of the best things to do. Absolutely. And to touch on some of the Patreon side of things, we will be in later episodes talking about certain content in and around not safe for work, OnlyFans, and other bits and pieces. So we will be having some amazing guests on to talk about stuff like that, because we are in a day and age where people are pushing to go into that side of stuff and potentially not having a good and full understanding of that sort of industry in that space.
And I think it's clear to say here that there's nothing wrong with doing that kind of work. It's there's a lot of people do it, a lot of people enjoy it. There's certainly demand for it. The way it makes some people feel when they're producing that kind of work. Absolutely no shade on people that work in that industry at all. I used to work in that industry from a photographer perspective before I was shooting cosplay. So it's just making sure everyone does it safely and considers all aspects. But yeah, I think that pretty much rounds us up. I've been iPhoto UK from Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy. My podcast host, Switch_GN. You can find all of our links on socials, Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy on pretty much all platforms. I want to say a massive thank you to our guests today, Naomi Nomity on Instagram and Uncanny Annie. Thank you both so much for coming on today and sharing your tips and experiences. I'm sure our viewers will be able to relate to a lot of what you've had to say. And thanks to the viewers for listening to us ramble on again.
As always.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all soon.
On one last positive note, I do want to plug one thing.
Cheeky.
If you want something funny and you want to listen to two crazy ladies talk absolute nonsense for however long, please go follow Uncanny Annie and Coffee Cat. Do you want to plug your podcast as well while you're here?
The Two Nerdy Girls, that's our podcast. We ramble though. We're not as professional as Darren and Tom, but we are talking also about silly stuff that kind of touches and all that stuff, and then we will try to expand it a little bit more where we can. So
it's good to be funny. I mean, we've got an episode coming up. We're recording tomorrow. We're just going to get nerdy about movies and games, and it's fun to do that. So
yeah, for that one we will have
those guys out. They
with
are
us as well.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Born Again will get talked about. So if you like Daredevil and you want to listen to that for about an hour and a half, then come on by.
So, yeah. Thanks again for everyone that's listening. Thanks once again to our amazing guests. We're Cosplay Togs and all things nerdy. We'll see you all soon.
For now.